Wait, we don't go over that.
No, we don't. It's like, you have a hearing. And then the summary page with the topics, which is...
Thank you.
You're welcome. This...
No, I never did that one either. I'm gonna read the letter, and then I'm gonna go.
Wait for the revenue. The revenue page.
This one?
No, this is the revenue page. Estimated revenue. This will be the bottom line. I'm going to show this page, but it can be the bottom line of this page.
All right.
And then the rate for the department.
And then I was gonna go, yeah, to the top. All right. Good evening. I'd like to call the public hearing for FY 17-18 budget to order. Public hearing for FY 2017-2018 budget. I'll start off by reading the mayor's letter into the record. The Honorable Dino Audiello, Town Council President, and honorable members of the North Providence Town Council, 2000 Smith Street, North Providence, Rhode Island, 02911. Dear Council President and honorable Town Council members. In accordance with Section 5-2-2 of the North Providence Charter, I am submitting my proposed budget for fiscal year June 30th, 2018. My proposed budget reflects a state-mandated revaluation. As a result of the revaluation, it is virtually impossible to project the effect it will have on each and every taxpayer because each individual's value will have changed accordingly. However, it is projected at this time, based on the preliminary information provided to my office by Northeast Revaluation Group, that the property values in town have increased by approximately 11%. At this time, I would like to caution all residents not to calculate their potential tax bill based on their current assessment or tax rate. Northeast Revaluation Group has advised the town, with all things being equal, in a normal revaluation, 1/3 of our residents would receive a tax increase, 1/3 of our residents, taxes would remain the same, and 1/3 of our residents' taxes would decrease in order to obtain the same tax levy of the prior year. The budget continues to present my philosophy of managing the town's finances in a manner that will continue to strengthen the financial future of our town. This budget, if adopted by the Town Council, will result in more efficient government, while at the same time continuing to provide our residents with the services that they are accustomed to receiving. Throughout the past year, the town of North Providence has continued to recognize the need to improve the town's aging infrastructure. The residents of North Providence overwhelmingly approved a $75 million school bond and made an investment in our children to construct 2 new elementary schools and provide $15.5 million of health and safety improvements. The taxpayers of North Providence realize the importance of providing our children with new state-of-the-art schools in order to enhance the educational environment within which our children learn. At the same time, I have allocated an additional $800,000 towards the continuation of the town's road resurfacing program. In addition, the town has also continued to solidify its plans for a state-of-the-art police and fire safety complex. This complex will be built using equitable forfeiture funds at no cost to the taxpayers and will address the long-term public safety needs of North Providence for years to come. On the financial front, the town has continued to make strong progress. Within the past year, the municipal rating agencies have recognized the strong financial condition of our town by upgrading the town's bond rating on two separate occasions to A2 and AA-. In closing, I look forward to working with each council member during the ensuing budget process in order to pass a budget that is both responsible and addresses the needs of our taxpayers. Sincerely, Charles A. Lombardi, Mayor. I'm going to start off by going over the revenue, the estimated revenue for FY 2018. And that is $99,333,914, a difference of $3,545,217 from last year. Is there any questions? Okay. Moving along to the administration. Budgeted FY 2017, $227,486. Proposed FY 2018, $229,250. Is there any questions? Okay, Town Council. FY 2017, $167,013. FY 2018, $131,296. Any questions? Legal Department. FY 2017, $414,834. FY 18, $430,384. Any questions? Town Clerk. FY 2017, $215,798. FY 18, $220,472. Any questions? Human Resources. FY 17, $45,810. FY 18, $57,600. Any questions? Public Buildings. FY 17, $975,432. FY 18, $911,607. Any questions? Planning and Economic Development. FY 17, $103,150. FY 18, $36,000. Any questions? Board of Canvassers. FY17, $174,741. FY18, $119,356. Any questions? Zoning Board of Review, FY17, $32,215. FY18, $34,250. Any questions? Other departments, FY17, $71,600. FY18, $73,100. Any questions? Auditing of financial records, FY17, $35,000. FY18, $35,000. Any questions? Purchasing, FY17, $75,125. FY18, $72,505. Any questions? Tax assessor, FY17, $319,468. FY18, $236,023. Any questions? Tax collector, FY17, $326,019. FY18, $325,982. Any questions? Finance, FY17, $314,092. FY18, $234,935. Any questions? Fire Department, FY17, $8,816,868. FY18, $9,251,774. Any questions? Communications Division, FY17, $455,169. FY18, $426,093. Any questions? Police Department, FY17, $6,666,302. FY18, $6,541,742. Any questions? Just come up to the mic and state your name for the record, please.
Good Good evening, Mr. President. My name is Dennis Stone. I am the president of FOP Lodge 13, who represents the police officers of North Providence. And initially, my question would be, as far as what's the purpose of the reduction of the $124,000? Is that what it was? I can't see it from here, but I'd just like to know where is that deduction coming from, and how does the $741,000 surplus that the police supplied to the town of its $1.2 million budget play into that?
Would anyone from the administration like to answer that?
So, members of the council and residents here. So we have a reduction of a captain, a lieutenant, and a detective in the TO.
Thank you. Okay.
So you're saying you have one already? A reduction of a captain, a lieutenant, and a detective? Is that what you're saying, Mayor? You already have that reduction? Is that what you're saying? Oh, that reduction? Right, but has that change in the TO been previously approved by the town council? Because the charter's clear when it says that they have to approve it. So it looks like you're submitting them a budget and not telling them what your plan is to.
Yeah, I don't know if, is he gonna speak for the council?
No, no.
Or is he,
No.
I don't know.
I'm gonna speak for the FOP.
Yeah, so the
residents.
bottom line is we'll be discussing that with the council and explaining why.
Just for the record, this is the first public budget hearing, and us council members, technically, this is the first time we're seeing the administration's budget. So we're not at will to answer these questions because we haven't had any public hearings on them yet. This is the first one, so.
Mr. President, I think Lieutenant Stone is right. This is the budget we're presenting. That has to, any reduction in the TO has to be approved by the council. So we are proposing this budget with those cuts in it. And then the council will vote on it once you have your own private hearing, not private hearing, a public all-day session, which is public, by the way.
Thank you. Any further questions on this matter?
Yeah, I just want to, just some clarification from what Mr. Foster just said. So the mayor's office, actually, I believe that proposal came from the acting chief with the reduction of those officers.
That reduction did not come from the chief. So we looked at the TO, and it was my opinion that we could reduce the TO by 5 officers. The chief would not agree to that. So when we looked at it, we thought that we would be presenting to the council a reduction of a captain, a lieutenant, and a detective. And keep in mind that this proposal does not take one police officer off the street. Doesn't affect an officer. The same amount of officers will be on the street daily and nightly. And we will listen and we'll discuss it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
So we're here to discuss the budget, and I'm basically being told that because the town council isn't prepared to answer questions, the mayor can say why he's doing it, but we can't get any further discussion on that. I'm not asking the town council any questions. The questions I have, and maybe some of our other members might have, are going to be important for you to hear before you even digest some of the stuff that's on here. So I guess my question would be, if it's not tonight, at what point can we sit and talk to the town council to make sure you're fully informed on the ramifications of what he's proposing here, as opposed to just, it's going to save some money. There's a lot more involved in that.
Tonight.
Okay.
This is the opportunity for the public to speak to us.
Well, it sounded to me like I was basically being shut off.
No, I'm giving you...
No, not by you.
Oh, all right.
Since the mayor brought it up, as far as not taking an officer off the road, I think everybody here needs to understand that it's just not those officers on the road that respond to incidents. It's just not the patrolmen, patrolwomen. It's everybody. Everybody with a badge, everybody with a gun goes to these calls, okay? And for the mayor to say that he decided it would be, we didn't need them, I don't understand how he can make that decision without at least talking with the town council, okay? Because the ultimate decision is going to be yours to reduce the police department. It's clear in the charter. It's clear. So I want the town council to truly understand that, because if there's any discussion needed after tonight, any clarification, believe me, we'll be more than happy to speak with you on it. So I just want the residents to know, okay? You know, I mentioned that I'm the FOP president. Well, I'm also a police officer. I might be a lieutenant or whatever, but I'm still a police officer right here like everybody else in this room is. So we take our job serious. We take public safety serious. We don't just throw it around like a term, like some people do, all right? There's actually two areas that I wanted to go over real quick as it relates to the mayor's proposal in his budget. As I mentioned, public safety, that's first and foremost in our mind, always has been, and it always will be. And the second thing I want to discuss is some inconsistencies that I'm seeing in the budget and in the comments in some of the media outlets about the budget and about the police department itself. If I could, I want to just reference an article in the Breeze this week. I think some people may have seen it, where it said that the union president was against cuts. And I'm definitely not against saving money. We've already done it. We saved the town $741,000, evidently, according to what I read. But this is how the mayor wants to reward us for it. The money also saved on that, on everything across the board, is basically based on a lot of forfeiture money and the Google money brought in by police officers, okay? Two in particular, and they're detectives. The ones that the mayor says we have 9? Are you kidding me? No, we don't have 9. We have 9 on the books, but those 2 that brought in millions and millions of dollars, we don't use them in North Providence. They're not even part of they're assigned to our detective division. I work in the detective division. I might see them once a month in the hallway talking with the chief or the deputy about things they're doing with the federal government to bring in more money for us, the town. One of those positions that he wants to eliminate is a detective. So of those 9 he claims we have, there's only 7 remaining that are actually working. One, however, is responsible solely for BCI, which is evidence room and things like that, and getting stuff down to the lab. So he's not an actively case-working detective, okay? Now we're down to 6. One is assigned to prosecution because they don't want to put another patrolman in there like we used to have for years. So now we're down to 5. So to say we have 9, oh, come on. No, we don't. We have 5 working detectives, but one of them we just had to file a grievance for because the mayor didn't want to fill the position. Before he even got permission from the town council to reduce it, he's already telling us no. We had to file a grievance. Well, guess what? That grievance is going to cost money down the road for something you haven't even decided on yet. And if we wait, we lose the spot to save the grievance. Or we can't file a grievance after a certain amount of time. And the mayor knows that. So to sit there and say we have 9 detectives, it's not true. We have 4 working detectives right now. And I know because I assign them their cases. And today, I had to give each one 2 new cases just from the weekend. I want to talk a little bit about the history of the manning in our department. We used to have 71 people. And I don't know if you recall, a couple years ago, I stood up here under different circumstances, and I discussed that. And yeah, we did reduce to 66 people, okay? by mutual agreement. But if you read what it says in the breeze, the mayor says, we initially agreed to reduce to 61. That's not true. Another inconsistency. We never agreed to that, okay? The mayor wanted to go down to 61. And we told him straight out, you can't do that. It's not going to be safe for the town. It's just not. There's not going to be enough people to go to calls, to go to the home invasions, to go to the break-ins, to go to the robberies, now the murders, the shootings, everything else. The bedroom community we once enjoyed is not here anymore. So to take these people off the road, as he calls it, it's not just those guys in the mock cars, it's everybody. But of those 71 people we used to have, and he said we agreed to reduce it to 61. I don't know where that even came from, other than the fact I know that's the magic number he was shooting for. And we did agree to reduce it to 66, only because he threatened to lay off people. He was going to lay off those 10 people and bring us down to 61 anyway. And so for two reasons, we didn't want that to happen. Number one, new officers on the job, we didn't want them getting laid off. But number two, we knew it was going to be a safety issue. We could not run this town with 61 officers. That hasn't happened probably since the 60s. And then also in that article, he says he wants to eliminate 3 top positions. A detective's not a top position. A detective is nothing more, and I'm not trying to downplay the importance of a detective, but it's a lateral transfer of a patrol officer who decides to go into plainclothes and work some investigative cases. He has to test for it, but we don't call it a promotion. It's a lateral transfer. He gets a little bit more money than a patrolman, but it's certainly not a top position. So why he's calling it that, it's because he's trying to make it look like we have too much rank at the top of this department. And I'm going to compare us to somebody very close in a second. During that agreement, I don't remember how many years ago it was, 8, maybe 9 years ago, when we did agree to reduce, we gave up a major, which is actually, for those of you that don't know, is above a captain. Now that's a high-ranking position. We gave it up to help save money because we were in a crunch. We knew the town was in a financial crunch then, and from what I'm seeing right now, that's not the case anymore. So why are you going to continue to cut from the people who continue not just to provide you safety and services, but to save you money and to make you money? So when we got rid of that major, we also got rid of a captain. We used to have 4 captains. Same number of police officers, I'm sorry, it was 71, okay? But we had reduced a little bit. We agreed to get rid of a major. We agreed to get rid of a captain, 2 very top positions. We did that to save money, but more importantly, we agreed to take on 2 more detectives to give the guys down at the bottom of the totem pole a little something to move from patrol. So he agreed to give us 2 more detectives. Now he wants to take one away. After we gave 2 ranking positions for it, and he wants more ranking positions for it. So I want everybody in the town council to understand that. This isn't just, oh, we're going to save $200,000 and get rid of these 3 positions that don't do anything. They all do something. They all work hard. But we've already cut by agreement when we were hurting for money. So I just wanted to clarify that as one of the inconsistencies. I mentioned that I wanted to compare us to somebody very close, right next door in Johnston. They have 66 officers. They have a chief. We have a chief. Well, we have an acting chief. They have a deputy chief. We have an acting deputy chief. They have 2 majors. We have 0. They have 3 captains. We have 3 captains. I think we might have 1 more lieutenant and 1 more sergeant than they do. However, they have 4 more detectives than we do. So all these positions that the mayor says we're heavy in, they're even heavier, and they don't seem to have nearly the problems that we do. Our problems are not from officers or from this. It's supervision. We have a young department. Look around. A lot of young faces, eager to do their job, can't wait to do it. But anybody in this racket's going to tell you, young guys need to be supervised. So do some older guys need to be supervised, okay? If you cut these positions, you're cutting the people that are going to train them, the people that are going to supervise them, and you're cutting the positions that they aspire to get to someday. So you know what that's going to cause? Some of these guys that say, well, there's no opportunity for me, I'm going to leave. We just lost a kid to Worcester Police Department. He was on the job not even 2 years. Probably one of the sharpest kids I think I've seen come across in a long time. Master's degree. He's a forensic accountant, I think he was. He could have went and worked for the FBI, but he chose to come work here. Left in less than 2 years, and he's not sorry he did it. There's no opportunities for these guys, especially if you take more and more positions away. And the mayor again said that he felt we didn't need those positions. I just would like to hear based on what. And I know one of the cookie cutter answers we're going to get is, well, there's less of this and less of that. Don't let anybody fool you, okay? Violent crime is on the rise nationwide, statewide, and here. If that's not true, why did we just spend over $300,000 putting the active shooter system in the school? I'm glad you did. I want to get that clear. I'm really glad you did. So, like I was quoted as saying somewhere, we can have all the bells and all the whistles we want, but if we don't have any people to ring the bell or blow the whistle, you're wasting your money. You need people for that. And not just these guys in the patrol cars. And you're going to hear, I believe, from one of my officers about some recent active shooter cases that might surprise you a little bit. I already mentioned the mayor's budget and the $741,000 plus surplus from the police. I want you to keep that in the back of your mind when you're looking at a cut, and not just funding, but for the number of officers to help us get to that money, to help make money. And if you don't understand that, the police department, as much as I hate to say it because it rubs me the wrong way, but we actually generate money. You know, and unfortunately it's through ticketing and stuff like that, which everybody knows my feeling on that, but we have to do it. The last thing I want to talk about as far as the inconsistency was the mayor in that article said that these positions have been vacant for a long time. Again, not true, or at least poorly represented. The one captain's position that's open right now, he left 2 months ago, which would also make room for a lieutenant and then a sergeant. But it's vacant because the mayor refuses to fill it. And I don't want to go down that road about vacancies because we've had that discussion before. I just want you to understand these positions have not been vacant for a long time. Are there positions that have been? Yes, but the reason they're vacant for a long time is because you have people like the acting chief and the acting deputy chief filling more than one spot. Your acting chief is a lieutenant in this department. Okay? There's one of your lieutenants. Your acting deputy is a captain. There's one of your captains. Right now, we have an actual captain, and we have a captain who's acting as the deputy. So he's really not performing the job of a captain. So he's only paying one of those salaries. So if you keep adding these things on, you have a ghost version of a surplus. And the school resource officers, there's 2 of them, all right? I believe they're part of that total number, but they're paid for out of Google money. So if they're paid for out of Google money, how do they come out of our budget? I don't think that's even allowed. But I guess we can address that later. But if they're part of that number, they shouldn't be. Our TO right now, the way it stands, should be 66 officers paid out of whatever budget the mayor comes up with, in addition to those 2 being paid for out of Google money. It's supposed to be supplementing your department, not supplanting. And I think that's what state police got in trouble for, some misuse of that money. I don't want to go down that road, but I want you to understand the smoke and mirrors you're seeing with the number of police officers. And the last one is those 2 detectives that I told you work for the FDA. They're paid by the FDA. The town's reimbursed for them, especially their overtime, where it's where they make all their good arrests, their big bus, where it generates money for the town and the state through forfeiture, and they're reimbursed. So again, what's happening to this money? Is that part of our surplus? However we got to our surplus, you don't repay us and repay the residents of the town by taking us away. It just doesn't make any sense. Like I said, we're a new department, meaning that the higher percentage of the officers we have are young, all right? Those positions need to be there for them to move on to. If they're not there, you're not going to get them to grow as a police officer. You're going to get them to leave, or you're going to get a mediocre police officer that says, why should I push myself? I got nowhere to go. And we don't have anywhere to go. We have patrol, we have detectives. There's no traffic division in North Providence like there used to be. There's no narcotics division. We used to have people assigned just to narcotics in North Providence. Again, generating money through seizures and forfeitures, everything else. But instead, we want to take everything out of patrol and just minimize the number of officers we actually have to go to calls like a house being robbed or a store, whatever. We'll even use the incident up here with the basketball court. Very easy solution to something like that if you had a division like community police, like we used to have. We used to have 4 people assigned just to community police. Now we have 1. And he can barely keep his nose above the waterline, and it's not his fault. It's every time he gets a complaint from a neighbor or an apartment building, or sometimes from the elected officials, they need help with something in their neighborhoods, and that's what it's for. But if you have one person doing all that, he's certainly not going to be able to take care of any issues over there at the basketball court. So what's the answer? Well, we'll just let the patrols go through there every hour. That is the most cookie-cutter answer, and I used that before. You can't just send somebody down there to drive by, because the kids, if they're going to cause trouble, are going to say, yeah, no, we're okay. And as soon as we leave, they're going back to doing what they were doing. However, if you had people in community police and they knew there was a problem going on like that, they could find ways to get in there with the kids and do what had to be done to end that. So again, there's nowhere for these guys to go. There's no division. We got patrol, we got detectives. And he even wants to take detectives away, and nobody to supervise any of them. So I guess what I wanted to say, if you look at our overtime budget, it probably wouldn't be that high if we had the right amount of officers we're supposed to have. Because then they complain that we're creating too much overtime. Well, you have to have people in their boots going to work. So you're going to have overtime, but you wouldn't have as much if you had more officers on the ground. So you picked it too. You want to save money, or you want to save the town. The people in North Providence deserve more than what they're getting right now. And we can give it to them, but you just have to let us.
Thank you, officer. Mayor, and then would anyone else from the police department like to speak?
Mr. Chairman, I just have one answer that might have been about 5 or 6 years ago, where we made an agreement with the police department, and we did reduce the manpower down to 61. That was an agreement, the union and the town, for a 12-month period. If I remember correctly, the numbers will show they did a great job with that number of men. And the overtime expenditure was at an all-time low. So at the end of the year, the agreement was over. It sunsetted. We did go to the table and made an agreement to downsize the police department by 5 members to 66. But there was a 12-month period where we manned this department with 61 officers. I want to say it was 5 or 6 years ago, and they did a great job. And I'm listening to all the reasoning, and we'll address it. Thanks.
Thank you. Chief?
Good evening. My name is Chris Pelagio. I'm the acting police chief. And I'd just like to clarify a couple of statements that were made by Lieutenant Stone with regards to his assertions that the town will be in a worse place with regards to these positions being removed. First of all, we have a captain's position that's been on the, in the TO as part of the organizational chart, an administrative captain spot that hasn't been filled in 4 years. So clearly, in a time where budget constraints mandate that we do more with less, we are doing that. Public safety will not be compromised. The patrol division is still at the current manning that it has been and will continue to be. We have excess positions in the agency that we can afford to lose at this point, in my opinion. Now, I understand that President Stone will argue on behalf of the FOP, as that is his job. However, as the administrator of the organization, again, in a time where we're expected to do more with less, we will do more with less. We have positions that have been subsumed by other positions in the police department. So, with regards to the community policing comment, we're all police officers. We're all community police officers in this day and age in 2017. So that duty falls on every one of us, from myself down to the youngest police officer. So with that being said, I just wanted to stress that public safety will not be jeopardized with these cuts. I'm sure they will argue otherwise. And as we get deeper into this, we will discuss it. And I'm here for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other questions on the police budget? Just come to the microphone, please.
Did he say that? He wasn't for it, but now you are? That's what you said.
And that's correct. In my,
Which we never agreed to. I don't know where you're getting that from.
We operated for 12 months with 61 men. And you go back and you take a look. And then
That's because you never filled them. You refused.
Guys, everyone has to address the council, so, no, that's okay.
I was actually asking the question to the chief, mayor.
The question was,
so with that being said, and I did hear Lieutenant Stone's question, and originally the mayor and I had a conversation, and the mayor felt that he wanted to remove 5 positions from the police department, and I disagree with that. But currently there are 3 positions that haven't been filled that I feel that we could take from the TO, which is the total complement of the organization.
Well, in every conversation I ever remember being with you in regarding the size of this department, up until we saw the budget, however many weeks ago it was, you've always said, I would never advocate for reducing this police department. You said it in front of us, you said it in front of former Chief Martellini and a few other people. So I'm just wondering why now, why the change?
That's incorrect.
No, it's not, but, okay. Well then, let me ask, good. So I got one more question then. The position, actually it's not even a question, it's to address another inconsistency. 4 years we haven't had administrative captain, okay? That administrative captain had to leave for medical reasons, okay? So a lieutenant has been filling the spot of 2 people, and another one, like I mentioned, up to here, because he can't get the job done. Not through any fault of his, it's just too much for one person. And you can tell, if you walk into the police department and look up, one of his jobs is the vehicles in our fleet. And you hear a lot about, oh, the Google money bought these vehicles. Well, they have to be fixed, and they have to be replaced, and they have to be all of this. That's part of his job in administration, and there's a list of them that are broken down on that board, and it goes on every week. If one guy just can't do it, I don't care what anybody says. We can cut down to 25 officers, but you know what you're going to get out there? Nothing. We're not asking to increase, although if it were up to me, we would, because we need the help. But to reduce, you're putting people at risk. It's that simple. Even officers, sometimes they go to a call, there's nobody to back them up. You'd be surprised to know how few officers there are on the road at times because of other calls they're on, or if they have an arrest, and how many people it takes because of our shortages. We have no one in the building sometimes to help out with an arrest. It means we have to take 2 officers out of maybe 5 to go handle 1 arrest in the police department. So the entire town is being handled by 2 or 3 officers. So you can't, you can save money. There's other ways you can save money, but you certainly don't cut it right out of the very people that are protecting you and the rest of this town. It just doesn't make any sense. And that captain who wasn't replaced for 4 years, he would have been replaced if they would have made a real captain and not an acting deputy/captain or an acting lieutenant/chief or a lieutenant/chief. We would have had the positions. If you don't choose to fill the position, yeah, we run without it. We can't make you put it there. We can only file grievances and try to get it replaced. So to say we ran fine without it, ask those guys how we've been running for the last few years, instead of just asking 1 or 2.
thank you. Is there any further questions on the police department? come to the mic and state your name, please.
Good evening, council members and the public. My name is Michael Zaccanini. I am also a member of FOP 13, serving here in North Providence Police Department. I come before you today in speaking in fear of retribution and retaliation. However, I feel as though this information needs to be spoken in front of the town council and the public. I've been a member of the police department for 16 years now, and including my military experience, 21 years in law enforcement. The administration's intent to reduce the manpower of the police department comes with some public misinformation portrayed by the mayor. On the Dan York Show, March 26th, he told the public that he visited the police station early on a Wednesday morning. First person he came into contact with, he said to them, "I'm sorry to wake you." This statement implies that the police are sleeping on duty, are not doing their job, or even not needed. I was the first supervisor that he encountered at 4:30 a.m. Moments prior to the mayor entering, we were diligently working on a missing endangered juvenile to have her safely returned to Rhode Island. For hours, we worked with an Ohio Police Department, Ohio Child Protective Services, Rhode Island DCYF, the juvenile's family members, all trying to arrange for her safe return back to North Providence. Just before 7:30 a.m., 2 patrol officers responded to Lowe's for a 911 hang-up call. They found the caller face down in a pool of his own bodily fluids, unresponsive. These officers performed life-saving CPR and brought him back to life. Despite the fact this is considered our slowest shift, that evening, the midnight to 8 shift logged 183 calls for services. That's almost 23 calls per hour, approximately 1 call every 40 seconds. This includes us locating a missing juvenile out of state and also saving a man's life. I, as a supervisor, have to have used adjacent police departments to assist us with calls because all of our officers were tied up. If there was sufficient division commanders, or what I'm referring to as middle management, the mayor would not have to check up on the police department at 4:30 a.m. As to the reduction of command staff, or the members of middle management, we had 6 out of 8 prison cells out of order. This forced us to utilize other agencies to detain our prisoners. We had to send our police officers to Johnston with prisoners in order to have them housed for the evening. The air conditioning and heating system is either on or off, leaving some areas of the building either sweltering or frigid. The air system is dropping chunks of dust and soot on us while we work. Light switches on stairwells that do not work. Security doors with broken latches. 12 or so patrol vehicles that were out of service, and brand new patrol vehicles that were improperly outfitted, leaving them unusable. This is because there's not enough middle management to oversee these critical tasks, these day-to-day operations, and make sure that they're all addressed in a timely manner. Due to insufficient middle management, we no longer have a canine unit, a traffic unit, a special response team, no one to do traffic studies, no one to do VIN inspections, no canine to locate dangerous suspects or harmful narcotics, no SWAT team to respond to the most critical of incidents. We need commanders to coordinate these services and manage these divisions. I was a range master, a firearms instructor certified by the Smith & Wesson Academy and the FBI. I was the department armorer. I resigned from these positions because we do not follow proper protocol for training. The FBI requires a minimum of 8 hours of firearms training annually. We currently have none. We were even cut down to 4 hours for just our annual qualifications. Budgeting issues. No middle management. I would not assume this liability. A $260,000 active shooting detection system is a great piece of technology for us to have, but not having enough properly trained and supervising officers to respond to this incident would be a travesty. Divisions and commanders are needed to ensure that there is properly trained and efficiently running police department. This is to provide the best services and ensure the utmost safety of the citizens of North Providence. Thank you.
Is there any other questions on the police budget? Just state your name for the record, sir.
Matthew Phelan, for the record. My speech is on my phone, so I'm not texting, so I don't want people to think I'm texting. So I'd first like to thank my friends and family who came out to support me today, and all my fellow co-workers. I appreciate you coming out today. Ladies and gentlemen of the council, I appreciate your time and attention in allowing me to speak in front of you tonight. Tonight I will spare you with all the statistics, the police logs, and comparisons from other police departments that show reason why you should not approve this cut. I come to you as an individual who was born and raised in this town, someone who has a mother, a grandmother, a sister, a brother-in-law, an aunt and uncle, and several cousins who still reside in North Providence. The town of North Providence has been entwined in my family's heritage for about 100 years now, from when my great-grandparents, Jackadine and Luigi Di Tommaso, moved here from Italy to North Providence back in 1920s. When Middle Spring Avenue was nothing more than a dirt road and the population was a mere 7,600. Back when my great-grandparents were settling in North Providence, the police force was nothing more than a police sergeant, who was considered to be the police chief, and constables, in which the police sergeant would supervise. I think we can all agree that we have slightly grown since the 1920s, with Middle Spring Avenue no longer being that dirt road and now being one of Rhode Island's busiest roads. So why would we take a step backwards when we are an ever-growing community? As council members, you were elected to represent the people who elected you into office. The number one priority that an elected official has to its people is one thing above everything else: safety. It comes before education, it comes before clean roads and parks, and it even comes before lowering taxes. Because without a safe community to live in, nothing else would be possible. We recently have heard the ideology that the amount of patrol officers in the street equals safety. This thought process is unfortunately incorrect. In today's day and age, all it takes is to turn on the television set to be reminded that we live in a dangerous world. But too often we think to ourselves that this could never happen here, especially in Little North Providence. However, heaven forbid this town finds itself facing a public safety threat. Why would you ever want less individuals wearing a uniform rather than as many individuals you could possibly have? To bring it back to the thought process to the amount of patrol officers in the street equals public safety, I ask you to take into consideration the following examples. Captain Raymond Bottenfield of the Santa Monica College Police Department, who engaged a gunman who opened fire with an assault rifle on a college campus. A captain, not a patrol officer. Major Huff of the Oklahoma Police Department, who conducted negotiations with an individual who grabbed a 2-year-old girl out of a shopping cart and held a blade to the child's throat. During negotiations, while a SWAT team was being established, the man with the blade began to count down from 60 seconds until he was going to harm the child. Major Huff was able to eliminate that threat and save the child's life. A major, not a patrol officer. Captain Marshank of the Jefferson County Police Department. Captain Marshank, along with Corporal Taylor, while driving down a highway, observed a vehicle on fire. Captain Marshank, using his baton, smashed out the window and pulled an 85-year-old man out of the vehicle before he was burned to death. A captain, not a patrol officer. Lieutenant Brian Murphy of the Oak Creek, Wisconsin Police Department. Lieutenant Murphy was the first officer on an active shooter scene at a place of worship. Upon Lieutenant Murphy approaching the temple, he came in contact with that shooter. Lieutenant Murphy was shot in the throat, hand, and legs, and when other officers arrived, though Lieutenant Murphy, wounded, waved officers into the direction of those inside the temple who needed help. The suspect had taken his own life shortly after coming in contact with Lieutenant Murphy. A lieutenant, not a patrol officer. These are just some of many examples of individuals who were not patrol officers who were the first ones on scene of a life and death situation. So I ask you now to reflect on the examples I had given and ask yourself, if one of those departments had made cuts and there was no Captain Bottenfield or Lieutenant Murphy who arrived on scene before a patrol officer, would the situation have turned out any different? I ask you, please, consider to have an outside agency to conduct a study on how many officers North Providence actually needs before making such a hasty decision. When it comes to the safety of our town, we need to take the proper steps to ensuring what we truly need in manpower. And let us remember that this is 2017 and not 1920s, and to protect the citizens of this town, we will need more than a police sergeant and a handful of constables. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other questions on the police? Just state your name on the mic, please.
Tom Jones, North Providence Police.
Thank you.
I'm going to lighten the mood. I'm not in fair retribution or retaliation, and I don't have a prepared speech, so I just want to put that out there. Got a couple bullet points that I wanted to touch on, and I'll give you a quick little background first. I'm a father. I'm a police officer in this town, and I'm on the union executive board as the secretary. I started my career in the prison at the ACI. I did about 5 years there. That's where I gained my passion to get involved with union leadership. And I went over to the Central Falls Police Department. That was a really good police department to work for. But unfortunately, due to opportunity, financial reasons, I was fortunate enough to get hired by this police department. I was, in fact, Mayor Lombardi's first hire. That was his first hire as the mayor of North Providence. And I was sworn in right in this room with Chief Pelagio getting promoted to lieutenant at the time. I came here for a few reasons. Number one, there was a lot of opportunity for a young officer. And when I say there was a lot, I can just go, I don't want to reiterate what Sergeant Zaccanini said, but we had a SWAT team, we had a community police division, we had a traffic division, 2 canine officers, we had a narcotics unit, and we also had an officer assigned to the FDA. I bring that up to you because based on the backs of those very members that were assigned to outside units and our narcotics officers, the town was fortunate enough to purchase equipment and training and stuff that the town council didn't have to budget for, or the taxpayers didn't have to give up any money for. We got that stuff based on hard work and members' backs. But it was opportunity. As I've gone through the ranks, I've seen this department dwindle down with the cuts, and I want to say to be the public safety director and the mayor is in a position that I don't think I could handle. And at the time, I was one of those officers that were going to be laid off at the time. That's not a good position to be in, especially when you got your family you're providing for and a job like this. Today, fire, police, corrections, not a popular spot to be in. And I will commend the mayor when he gave us credit at functioning approximately 61 officers. We did a good job because we're going to come and do a good job every single day. That's what we have to do. If we weren't happy, doesn't matter. We got to protect everyone in here and ourselves. So that's why we came here and did the good job, and we'll continue to do the good job. That's not the case. Case in point is, what I want you guys to understand as elected officials, you have to worry, and I don't see anything up there budgeting for recruitment and retaining of police officers, but just as I left the Central Falls Police Department, we're having officers leave, or will be leaving, seeking other employment at a rapid pace. And where this comes into your field of expertise, let's say, you're spending approximately $12,000 per officer to train these officers, give them the skills they're going to need to flourish in the profession and to stay alive. When they leave, they're leaving on our taxpayers' dollar, and they're going to go work for another police department like I did myself. And you benefited by it, but other communities are going to benefit by it. And there's a lot that goes into that, and it's not one person's fault and another person's fault, but if we don't invest in our agency, and again, look around Rhode Island, there's plenty of departments that budget for recruitment and retention of officers. It's a big, big deal. You have to invest back into our agency. And I'll bring, for instance, the Providence Police Department and the Fire Department. This community action program, I'm telling you right now, I had about a dozen officers inquire within the last 2 days if they can come to the North Providence Police Department. They're bailing out. There's about a line of 100 guys putting their papers in for that one little thing. Providence Fire, all they did was change their schedule. I know about 5 that went over to Johnston on Providence Fire dollar. You're going to see that here if we get these cuts that are proposed. We're not asking for more. In my professional opinion, I think we need to have more. We're not asking for more. I was here then when we were trying to cut the department, and I'm here now saying maybe we should try to keep it the same, or work and force a negotiation with you involved. Lastly, I'd like to say, I admired Chief Pelagio growing up as a young officer. He was my lieutenant, and I can say I really don't think he would support a cut such as now, but he's wearing a different hat now. But I don't think this is the right move, ladies and gentlemen. I really don't. So that's on my 2 cents. I'd just like to say thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there any other questions on the police department? State your name for the record, please.
Captain Mike Piva. The reason why I'm here before you, Mr. President, is barring the two acting positions from the department, I am the highest ranking and permanent officer in the department. So reduction of rank has no effect on me. However, I am still a resident of the town. As one of the senior administrators and a military veteran, I know the importance of rank structure and its hierarchy and structure, and for 2 reasons. The young officers need supervision and on-the-job training from those in supervised positions. The younger officers aspire to become leaders, so they need promotional opportunities, and by eliminating these positions, this will not only diminish their opportunities here, but younger officers will begin seeking employment elsewhere where opportunities exist. As far as Spanish controllers exist, there's no possible way that only 2 captains can effectively, and especially when one of them is also an acting deputy position, filling 3 positions, the other being the professional standards officer filling his duties as well. The lack of supervision could lead to lawsuits and the town being liable for the lack of supervision and vicarious liability. This concept is basic leadership 101 in every police supervision manual and has been in existence for centuries. We are all police officers regardless of rank and respond when one is in danger or needs help. I've been with the police department for 21 years now, and since my 20 years, I've always had 4 captains supervising their respective divisions. However, concessions were recently made given the help the town out during budgetary hard times. The hard times are now behind us, but crime is not. And yet the town is seeking additional concessions where it will reach dangerous and unsafe levels. Just last year, I was asked by the acting chief of police to conduct a job analysis pertaining to the prosecution unit and its duties, and it was discovered that North Providence was the second busiest in all of Kent County, only behind Cranston, who has roughly 150 officers. So just put that in perspective, and that officers here are extremely busy and proud to be wearing the badge and serving the community, but just need a little support. All of you sitting up on the stage know me as we interact with one another or know each other from the town, and you know what I stand for. I would not be here wasting your time, nor mine, if this was not an important issue at hand. We all respond during emergencies, not just patrol officers. Paramilitary organizations need a hierarchy of command and rank structure to be safe, effective, and efficient. Police work is not for everyone, and it takes a lot of hard work, dedication, and being ethically and morally sound. This decision is not about the police chief, nor the mayor, or an individual. This is about an organization. This organization existed before we all existed and will be here after us. If you allow these changes to downgrade our capability of providing as much protection as possible, our residents needed supervision to our young officers. And in closing, I'm not only a police officer captain, but a concerned resident who lives in this town and cares a lot about this town. Thank you for your time, and I hope everyone takes this decision seriously as I do. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there any more questions on the police department? Just please state your name for the record.
Lieutenant Diana Perez.
Thank you.
Good evening, elected members of this honorable council and residents of the town of North Providence. First, I would like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to be heard. I have remained silent for the past 11 months. I did so because I was reminded by Mayor Charles Lombardi in a letter dated May 12, 2016, under General Order 240.02, Section 3D6, confidentiality shall be maintained, commensurate with the needs of the investigation. Well, as we all were made aware on March 13th, almost 1 year to the date after I first met with the mayor, the investigation has been completed. It is important that you hear what I have to say in its entirety to avoid any further legal battles, costs pertaining to my case. As you all know, after years of hard work and dedication to this town, I find myself in a battle with this administration over decent working conditions. I remain silent throughout because I am confident that our justice system will speak for me. Today, I find it important to break my silence because of the conduct of this administration and their efforts in removing a position which is in direct affront to me personally and to members of this department in general. You may not be aware, but the only person currently eligible to fill that vacant position, captain's position, stands before you. By removing that position, the administration removes my ability to be able to take the promotional exam. I believe that this is a continued course of conduct undertaken by this administration as retaliation against me for coming forward and expressing my concerns over how I was being treated. Anyone who knows this mayor and administration knows that if you cross Charlie, you pay the price. If you really want to save money, take a look at the legal fees that this town has expended for lawyers to defend against arbitrary and capricious manner in which this administration attempts to rule this town. I can tell you of one report that cost the taxpayers over $40,000. Had the mayor not been acting in total disregard of the taxpayers of this community, he would have taken affirmative action when the first presented with the concerns covered in the report, rather than allowing them to fester. Unlike the current acting chief, who holds no degree, yet holds the highest position in our department, I've spent years of countless nights and evenings at my kitchen table and in classrooms to obtain my bachelor's degree, which is a prerequisite for the promotion to captain. By eliminating this position, you join with this administration in telling me that all of my efforts were for naught. I cannot believe that after 13 years of dedicated service, it comes down to this. Forget the fact that I created an annual national night out that was awarded $5,000 in grant money to bridge community police partnerships. Forget the fact that I reestablished the North Providence Neighborhood Crime Watch, in which I see a few members in this room. Forget the fact that I served our community as the advocate for victims of domestic violence and sexual assault. Forget the fact that I worked closely with our seniors as an advocate, providing resources and services to those who needed it the most. Forget the countless volunteer and unpaid hours dedicated to the Mayor's Youth Commission. All for naught. If this is truly a cost-saving measure, if you are truly interested in saving money for the taxpayers who put their trust in you, then I have the solution. Hold this administration accountable. Tell this mayor and this administration to resolve issues instead of creating them. Tell this mayor and this administration to stop covering for the blatant conduct of unqualified individuals he puts in charge of departments. Tell this mayor and the administration to stop picking fights for the sake of fighting. An organization cannot function effectively when workers are afraid. You refused to take action as the town council members a few months ago, stating there was already a process in place to investigate my allegations. I ask that you utilize the same principles and allow the federal court to render a decision before you just eliminate a position I have worked tirelessly for. I am asking you to remain unbiased in this decision-making process. I won't utilize the word independent since it appears to have a different meaning in the town of North Providence. You're not getting paid $40,000 to sing the same tune. You are elected officials by citizens of this town, and you owe it to them, not me, to protect them from any further liability. My parents taught me, and as my husband and I, my husband who's in this room, teach our children, no one owes you anything. Life is what you make of it. So I made it. And now what I have worked so hard for the past 13 years is threatened because I filed a complaint. I refuse to sit back and remain silent. Mayor, you know I took the right course of action. You know I did exactly what you would have wanted your daughter or your granddaughter to do if it were them in my position. The only difference is I'm not your daughter. The mayor wants to make one thing clear with my case. There are consequences for going against him. Mayor, you've made them loud and clear. Thank you.
How you doing?
Just state your name for the record, sir.
Robert Jones.
Thank you.
I'm a taxpayer in the town of North Providence. I live in St. James condominiums with my wife. I'm a dispatcher. There's a police department dispatcher, but that's not really my profession. My profession started in 1965 when I joined the Marines on my 17th birthday and went to Vietnam. Then I joined the Providence Police Department in 1969 and retired from it. I went on the DOD Police Department for 8 years, and then I started driving a truck cross-country, and then I came here 9 years ago. What I've seen on this police department in the last 9 years has made me sick. In the military, I was a company commander of an MP unit. I was in charge of 142 individuals. It was my job as the company commander to create morale for my people, to make sure they got fed, to make sure they did their job. Everything I did, and I'm probably the only Republican in the room, am I right? Whatever. What I tried to do was have a unit that had so much pride and so much morale, they would do anything I asked them to do, and they did. That's what's lacking with this police department and this town. We should all be a family, and it makes me sick. I'm retiring in August. I'm going to Colorado, and guess what? My buddy's the town council president and mayor of the town. He's going to swear me in as a town marshal. Ha ha! That's great. But what I'm saying is I've had enough experience in all this time to tell you you've got some serious problems. Now, as a dispatcher today, I needed cars, and I couldn't get them. They were all tied up. We've only got 5. We should have 10. Just like Officer Phelan was saying, dirt roads back in the day, it's not dirt roads anymore. You've got 2 school resource officers in just 2 of your schools. That's it. And they work in those schools. How about police officers in every school? Because let me tell you something. One of these days, something is going to happen. It's going to happen. And we're not going to be prepared for it. It takes these captains and these lieutenants to plan and train people. It's not being done. We need canines. We need a SWAT team. We need the stuff. And you don't have it. And when, just like in Connecticut, when it happens in one of our smaller schools, we're all going to be crying our eyes out. All of us. This should be a family, people. A family with one Republican and the rest of you. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Leslie Lanny. I just want to commend our police department because I'm really proud of them. It's a tough enough job, and this is 2017, and they have enough on their minds to worry about than this sort of thing. As far as, an environment, as you know, Mr. Forza, I worked for the town for 38 years, and I worked hard. I didn't abuse my sick time. I did everything I could to do a good job. And guess how I got to retire after 38 years last April 12th? on the back wall of the town hall where my union rep wanted to call a rescue for me because of how you treated me in the office. Okay? Yeah. Screaming at me, hanging up on my union rep, causing me an anxiety attack. No, I can say this. I can say this, Dino. I can say this.
Well, we have to
Because
stick to the police
It
budget.
has to do with the environment, okay? Well, Dino, I'm sorry. I'm just making a quick comment to say that there is some problem there. And I didn't take kindly to having to exit that way. So if someone else comes to you and says there's a problem, there's a problem. And I didn't deserve it. So all I'm saying is, if anyone in here is saying they have a problem, there's a problem. Thank you.
Mr. President, let me first say that I have the utmost respect for the police department. We have a disagreement on staffing. We have a disagreement on the budget. It's before this council. But Ms. Laney chose this opportunity to stand up and talk about her personal problems. She caused her personal problems. What she didn't say, this is not part of the budget, but she decided to make it. What she didn't say is, on a number of occasions, she's walked out of offices without permission. We've tolerated her arrogance for years, and anyone who's worked with her knows what the issue is.
We have to stick to the police budget.
She had a retirement.
We have to stick to the police budget.
Did I say one word while she was speaking? She had her retirement in 3 months before she left. I never did that. My secretary left on stress.
Can we stick to the police budget?
No, that's okay.
Can we stick to the police budget,
ask anyone
please?
in the town hall, they'll tell you what she is.
Officer Tom Jones. I just had one point that I wanted to make when I came up here, which hopefully reels everybody back in onto the topic. But back to where you guys need to be concerned again. Like I said, I came over here from Central Falls to experience that opportunity. I rose through the ranks here as a detective. Now I'm a sergeant. I aspire to go higher than where I am now, but I need you guys to understand, and I don't want to, insult anybody's intelligence, but the experience and the knowledge you gain from having the opportunities to go through these different positions, like President Stone had said earlier, being patrol and investigations is really all we have other than the supervisor level, but fortunately enough, I was able to go to detectives and then become a supervisor. That knowledge and experience I gained investigating homicides, financial crimes, child molestations, everything happens in this community that happens in the big cities. Maybe not as much, but it happens. And with that investigative experience and those scenarios that I was able to be in, I'm supervising our younger employees now with that experience that I gained. Where it falls on you, we have over 30 employees on our job with 5 or years experience. If you don't have those opportunities and those avenues to gain the experiences I have, where are we going to be in another 5 or 10 years from now? That's the question I want you guys to ask yourself. Before you go any further with any more budget talks, but just as the chief said, he's open for questions. I'm certainly open for questions. I like coffee, black. I'll sit with any one of you guys and give you any knowledge I can. And I'm sure I'm speaking for the union right now. We'll do the same. Again, we have to force dialogue because this isn't a good way to air out our business here in front of our taxpayers. It really isn't. It's negative on the administration, it's negative on the police department, and the men and women here do a really, really good job, despite what anybody's gonna tell you, despite when anybody says we're not busy. We are busy. I'm telling you that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. When you're elected to be mayor, I think what happens is you just become the public safety director because it's a position to be had. But it doesn't mean that you have the qualifications to be a public safety director. It doesn't mean that you went to college or attained a bachelor's degree in police. So I didn't hear any justification this evening from Mayor Lombardi saying as to why he thought cutting those positions was a wise public safety decision. I believe not having the experience or the education in that field, which is needed to make those decisions, is very important. And what that leads me to is the leadership of the police department. Since 2011, October 2011 to be exact, this administration has had an acting police chief, an acting deputy position. And those positions hold up the rank and file from being promoted. Now here we are in 2017. Over $425,000 has been spent by having those acting positions. They accumulate sick time, vacation time, and overtime. So, Mr. Mayor, if you're looking for somewhere to cut, instead of cutting in the rank and file, where your expertise is not in public safety, you may want to start with your acting police chief and your acting deputy chief, get them out of the union, put a permanent leader in there so the morale, the rank and file have the proper training. As Lieutenant or Officer Zaccanini said, I was appalled to hear that they're not even being trained properly. We have $60 million in Google money. It's the famous word, Google money. And you mean to tell me it wasn't spent on training? It's a travesty. It starts at the top and it trickles down. And for the council to look, and most of the council members here have been here since 2011 when that acting position took place. It's time to demand a permanent, well-qualified, educated police chief and deputy chief to the position to make the decisions of the much-needed rank and file, not just an elected official telling someone it's going to cut money because it's a cost savings. That's a travesty. And I know this council will do the right thing and support public safety where it needs to be supported. Thank you.
Any further questions or comments on the police department budget? Okay. Is he speaking? Just state your name for the record, sir.
David Bradley.
Thank you.
I'm a resident of the town, but I'm also a retired officer from the town of 22 years. I've seen the best years of the police department. In those 22 years, I've been retired for 7. And, you know, with the Google money, I thought it was a time that this department would really flourish. Instead, I've seen it deteriorate. And right now, you have a department that's really crippled. In a time when public safety, and certainly as a town resident, I would be concerned. It's not the type of job that you can do more with less. This department's crippled, and reducing the TO would be kicking the legs out, and I hope it's really looked at before any of those decisions are made.
Thank you. Is there any other questions on the police department budget? Comments, questions? Okay, moving along to Division of Inspections. FY17, $244,755. FY18, $267,560. Is there any questions? Division of Automotive Repair. FY17, $577,658. FY18, $597,376. Any questions? Emergency Management. FY17, $11,200. FY18, $11,500. Any questions? Fire hydrants. FY17, $250,000. FY18, $285,000. Any questions on fire hydrants? Streetlights. FY17, $650,000. FY18, $650,000. Any questions? Beautification. FY17, $3,000. FY18, $3,000. Any questions? Department of Public Works. FY17, $1,835,317. FY18, $1,940,266. Any questions on Public Works? Recreation Department. FY17, $566,875. FY18, $663,371. Any questions on the Recreation Department? Environmental Protection. FY17, $1,987,482. FY18, $2,060,795. Any questions on environmental protection? Local welfare. FY17, $10,574. FY18, $10,574. Any questions? Union-Free Public Library and Cultural Center. Cultural Services, I'm sorry. FY17, $889,582. FY18, $909,703. Any questions? Bond and note principal. FY17, $1,290,000. FY18, $1,325,000. Any questions? Bond and note interest. FY17, $430,883. FY18, $1,713,895. Any questions? Grants to organizations. FY17, $23,500. FY18, $17,500. Any questions? Salvatore Mancini Resource and Activity Center, FY 17, 510,000, FY 18, 0. Any questions? Just state your name for the record, please.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. Kristen Catanzaro. Mayor, I'd like to know where the $510,000 is in the budget. I followed this situation here and there in the Valley Breeze. I don't lend too much credibility to what is really said in there. However, I see that you decided not to fund it this year, but you did say you would keep it running as long as you were here. So I'd like to know the page in the budget where it has your allocation to keep it running. I missed that in the budget. Where is that money?
There is no money in the budget at this point in time, Mr. Chairman. As you know, we've been discussing the issue of information. I think we're gaining a little headway with the board. And when we do, and then we'll restore those monies. At this point in time, there is no money in the budget.
Okay, my question is, where is the money? Everything that's in a budget book, the council, the residents, take it as the gospel to see where all their money is being spent. So do you have a pool of money waiting to make a decision that it's either going to be funded or you'll do whatever you have to do for your own senior center? My specific question is, and I think all the seniors that are here tonight, for them to go home and tell their children, their senior friends, all the volunteers, is that we know there is money waiting to fund the center. Regardless how you do it, where is that money?
So right now, there is no money. But I'm sure before this budget is completed and the questions that we're waiting for to be answered, we'll fund the center. As to the amount, so what that's going to be at this point in time, we don't know.
I guess he just can't answer the question, because if there's $510,000 there that's being allocated, and it was allocated last year, the years before, and the year prior, you didn't set it aside. So you've disappointed the seniors in letting them believe you have the money of some sort to continue running senior services or a senior center. Because if you don't have it in this budget and it's in some secret little fund, it shouldn't be in a secret little fund. It needs to be transparent in this budget as a line item, is how you're going to maintain the services for the seniors. And you can't answer the question. And don't blame it on a tax increase either, because you found other places to put that money.
Is there any other questions on the senior center? Okay. Insurance. FY 17, 940,000. FY 18, 1,095,000. Fringe benefits. FY 17, 11,129,452. FY 18, 11,939,745. Any questions on fringe benefits? Various. FY 17, 894,989. FY 18, 965,000. Any questions on various? Deficit elimination program. FY17, $938,890. FY18, 0. Any questions on deficit elimination program? I will give the totals of education, and if anyone has any questions, I'll let John McNamee answer those questions. FY17, $53,165,383. FY18, $55,511,260. Does anybody have any questions on the education budget? Okay, that concludes our budget hearing. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion's been made by Councilman Brady, seconded by Councilman Fiola. Any other questions? There being none, all those in favor? All those opposed?